Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2021 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 3, episode 6. It is called Dust to Dust. So full spoilers for the episode. And we have some very interesting things going on. We've got a new fancy drug that is on the station that is related to Psychor and psychics and the telepaths, and we'll talk about what that is. And we get some pretty big character beats for Jakar as the episode goes on. Plus, it's not Uncle Fester, but his cousin, your best friend Bester, is back.
Oof.
Don't it oofed me. How dare you? This is yes, we have some Psycho stuff, which was actually quite exciting at the start of the episode, because when they realise that he's coming, they all start shitting themselves because they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're up to all these things that are in secret and we're trying to take down.
Yeah, what about our super secret club that everyone knows about?
We're trying to do all these things and the Bester will sense it all. We have to do something. Ivanova almost goes completely off script and tries to shoot him down single-handedly.
Yeah. It's her first, second, third, and 12th recommendation is to just kill him.
Yeah, or at least a bit of light maiming, I think was a second suggestion. So that's obviously this big thing hanging over the head of the show early on. There's some cool little things at the start of the episode. There's another example of one of the guards who are working for the Night Watch, like harassing a store owner because now that the news is out, now that the information about the assassination of the previous president has made its way around, there are people taking sides. There's some people who are saying, yeah, I think I believe this. This president that we have is corrupt.
Fake news.
Yes. Obviously that term hadn't been coined quite yet, but that is essentially what this Night Watchman is getting at. And Sheridan's having none of it. Sheridan's like, no, you can put up your photos, your posters. You have any trouble, you call me directly, and he grills out the guy. But it was a nice little bit of just like fallout from last episode, just to sort of show us that there's been a bit of an impact because of that coming out. So that's nice. And then, of course, that ties in neatly to kind of the fear about Bester, because that's one of the things that he might uncover when he's there. So, but they've got a plan. The plan is to get a bunch of Minbari telepaths, so they've all got personal telepath blockers, because Minbari telepaths are quite strong. So they all just gang up with Minbari telepaths and wait for Bester to arrive. Of course, after Ivanova almost kills him before Sheridan stops him.
Mm-hmm. And Bester has to take some sort of sleeper, it's called, where it blocks. It's like a telepath blocker.
He's not happy about it, but he does take it. Which actually kind of leads to, I don't know what I was expecting when this plot was starting, but it actually ended up not being the main attraction. Like, the main attraction was where Jakar's story went, once it got going. The Bester plot ended up just being like a fun side plot with Garibaldi, where they were having like this weird, like, awkward buddy cop relationship.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's setting up more like it's a little bit of a buddy cop thing where, I mean, except one of them is just not having it. Even by the end, there's no turn. It's Bester constantly trying to tell Garibaldi that he and them are the same, like their jobs are the same. I mean, the storekeeper versus that guard in the beginning, like the guard even says like just following orders, as if we didn't get enough references to what this is an allegory for before. And then like, yeah, and so there's that, and then I think it's also doing something tricksy with Bester's character where nobody trusts him. Nobody believes that that's the real reason he's there to the station is because this dust is on board and they have a rogue like I don't know, rogue telepaths or people becoming telepathic because of this drug, that he's there to help them. Nobody really believes him, but it turns out that is the reason he's there. And so it's sort of trying to build like maybe a trust rapport a little bit with him.
Well, there is a bit of a swerve, because at the end when Bester's leaving, we find out that the Psycho actually created this drug, which is not something he told them.
Right.
This is them trying to create new telepaths in humans, but it doesn't work to do that, because that may have been the goal of it. But what we actually find out in the episode is that when someone takes this drug, a regular human, the latent telepath gland or whatever we've all got,
probably a pineal gland.
Basically it kind of like stimulates that, and it effectively will give you one shot at reading someone's mind, but it's very specific though. It's like okay, you can sort of like scan someone's mind and go really in depth, but then that's it, right? That's like your one thing you would.
I think they describe it as like it's like a shot of a person's lifetime. So you get all of their emotions and all of what they've gone through in one go, and it can make people crazy.
Yeah. Well, it says that most victims because obviously this is not like a telepath scanning someone, it's actually quite intrusive and quite vicious. We see examples of this in the episode. So the way it seems to work is that when a person takes this drug and scans someone, the person who is scanned will be like kind of like out of it and like maybe a little bit crazy for a few days, but they tend to recover. The interesting detail is that if someone uses this drug to scan a telepath, apparently the effects are more severe and they might never come out of it, which I thought was a very interesting wrinkle. And it's possible he's lying when he says that, but I kind of hope he's not, because it's actually really interesting. Like, they've created something that only hurts them, like in the long term, which is just I don't know, a little bit of dramatic irony, I guess. But it's interesting. There's something that could possibly be used against a telepath at some point if the occasion calls for it. But intriguing. I thought that was an intriguing little detail. Obviously once it revealed that they created, I'm like, maybe that was a lie just to make it, because that made it sound like that's why they're so determined to find anyone who's selling this drug, as opposed to, we want to not let any other race have this, so they can't possibly do what we couldn't do and use it to unlock more telepaths, because we want the most telepaths because we're Earth and we want to win
Earth first.
Yeah. So yeah, but all of that made sense. I did enjoy it was almost a funny cut, actually. It was one of those ironic cuts that the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer would love to do, where Bester says, "Can you think of anyone who would be secretly building up like weaponry that could be hidden around?" And obviously we were all thinking Jakar, and it just cuts to Jakar like negotiating over this drug,
making a drug deal.
Yeah. And the drug dealer guy is like thinking that he's just selling a drug to another dealer or something like that, and Jakar's like, "I don't want to create a market, you fool. I need a weapon to..." And this is something that's been brought up many times, is that Narn don't have telepaths, although we get a new layer to this.
Get some backstory on that, yeah.
Yeah,
They used to,
and presumably it was the Centauri. It doesn't say them specifically, but you would assume it's the Centauri he's talking about. Murdered all of their telepaths, and as a result, like they've not been able to breed, for lack of a better term, any natural telepaths ever since. Like it was genocide effectively. They found them all and killed them so they wouldn't have that advantage.
So they didn't say Centauri. Did they say it was? But did they say it was an alien that did it, or non-Narns? Because I sort of jumped to the fact, like, well, because of paranoia, that the Narn killed their own telepaths.
Oh, I didn't jump to that. No, they didn't specify it was non-Narns. That's what I heard, basically. Like when the way he phrased it, it made it sound like I just assumed it was a Centauri, since that's the one enemy we know they've had. And,
yeah, well, you're probably right.
Yeah, but I mean, there's room for your interpretation if that's where it goes. But it didn't. I feel like he would have brought that up. Like it would maybe sounded like sadder if that was the case, because it would be like his own races like failing, I guess. But
yeah,
but that's an interesting read on it though. But regardless, because the guy's saying that it activates that the gland that's there, but you may not have that, so it may not work for Narn, because this was developed for humans. And while it can work for most races, most races have their own telepaths, so it would make sense that it would work for them. So, and of course, as soon as he says, like, you know, this could be dangerous for a Narn to use. Like, it may not even work properly, or if it does work, it may only work partially. Like, what Narn's going to, like, test this? And obviously, I think if you're watching this, you're sitting going, well, Jakar's going to test it himself. Because of course he is. That's the most interesting possible thing that can happen.
He's the most noble.
Which is, honestly, like, I'm enjoying the episode up until this point. I'm having fun with the Bester stuff. I'm having fun with all the sort of the world building about, like, having them and Barry telepaths and try to problem solve how to deal with Bester in the context of everything went on last season with Talia. We'll get back to her in a minute because there's some stuff.
Yikes.
But the big thing that, like, got me pumped in this episode is that once Jakar's taken dust and he's sort of standing there delirious, he stands up and he shouts Malari. And, like, this is one of these things where it's only exciting because of the context of the serialized storytelling up until this point. But the thought of him going to try and read Londo's mind is so freaking exciting because of all the things you know he might find. All of the juicy stuff that we know Londo's done and experienced and known about over the course of this show, and all these answers that we know Jakar wants, like, him just yelling his name was captivating, and it's like, oh my god, is he going to get anything? Is he going to get there? Because I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be. Can he get to him? Like, is he heavily guarded? Can he just walk into those, like, parts of the station now that he's no longer an ambassador, that he's a citizen? I wasn't sure, and he does get there. In fact, he's like a goddamn serial. The way he holds up poor Vir.
I know. I was concerned that he killed Vir for a second.
it was like Michael Myers for a split second, just holding up Vir by the neck, and like, and we cut ahead after some other scenes, and Londo, he's got him on some, like, weird, probably in the brown sector, some desolate part of the ship. I just love the reaction to brown sector. He's just, you're 12 years old.
Gross.
In many ways. So,
I do enjoy a good Lego game, like a 12-year-old would.
That's fair. So Londo, of course, is actually very scared. Like, he's like, oh, Jakar's finally snapped. He's kind of pleading with him a little bit. And Jakar leans in, tries to read his mind, and of course, he doesn't quite get anything interesting right away. It's kind of one of those things where there's, like, layers to his mind, and, like, the first part's not that interesting or important. And obviously, he does get to some of the important parts with Marden, and he never quite hears who these mysterious people are that he's working with, but he sees that he is working with them. He sees that he's responsible for a lot of what's happened in this war and what's happened to the Narn. But before that, there's a flashback. We get to see a scene that we'd never seen before, which is Londo getting the job to come to Babylon 5, which I thought was a wonderful character detail, because so much of Londo's character is trying to, like, regain his importance and prove that he is worthy of being respected. So the idea that he was given this shitty job because no one else wanted it and they think it's a joke is kind of wonderful.
I think we speculated this before. I don't know if with Londo, definitely with Delenn. Well, maybe not with Delenn. It was like whether or not, like, they were put on Babylon 5 as a punishment, or to get them away from like the home world. Like, we don't take you seriously, so we're just going to send you to this station that we don't take seriously.
Yeah, we might have done. Sounds like a conversation we might have had, but I think it works so perfectly here. And to have, like, Jakar of all people get to see it and know this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, if the drug works on Narn the way it does on humans as described in the show, then not only is Jakar experiencing the memories, he's also should be experiencing, like, the feelings. Like, he dives deep into Londo's brain and should experience everything, like, including the guilt,
you're right.
And the trapped feelings that he had.
We didn't
so
mention
maybe
that.
there'll be a little bit of empathy there. I don't know. Not that Londo really deserves it, but
no, we didn't mention that. But you're right. Bester said that earlier on when he was describing Dust. He did mention that you feel the feelings. I mean, I don't know if I got in the scene as he was getting all the modern stuff, as it was sort of like, you know, given us the montage of that. I don't know if I got in the scene that Jakar was like feeling what Londo was feeling in those segments. It felt more like he was just reacting to seeing it as opposed to feeling it. But maybe that'll be something they expand upon as we get maybe more of his
right. Well, right
to
before we get the conclusion of it, there is like a deep dive into his brain where he is overwhelmed with all the memories that he's getting in one shot, like was also described as a consequence of taking the drug.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see. But there's another thing that's going to affect is, you know, how Jakar behaves after this point anyway, because of how this experience ends.
But there is a lot of wiggle room here because he is Narn and not human. There's a lot of wiggle room for it doesn't affect him the exact same way as it would affect a human being because that's what it was designed for.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if he will get over his desire to murder Londo after this.
Well, he might very well, but it may have nothing to do with feeling any feelings that Londo had during any of this. Like, what happens at the end? I don't want to say it supersedes it necessarily, but
it might.
But it doesn't. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll come up if he felt it or not. But I didn't in the scene get that he was. It didn't feel like he was feeling the emotions that Londo felt in those scenes. But then again, it was so quick and so. Like, just like an assault of like moments, but the way he was kind of commenting on it, he goes, "It was you. Who are these people?" And he starts asking questions. Like, it didn't feel like he was because those moments we see where Londo, way back in the start of season 2, when he's speaking to Morden and he kind of reacts to like, but you killed 10,000 Narn. Is like, what? They're just Narn. And then he says, like, why not just kill the whole Narn homeworld? It's like, all in good time, Ambassador. And, Londo's face falls because he's like, that wasn't a serious suggestion. What are you doing? Like, I don't... It'd be interesting if Jakar did feel that. If he felt what Londo felt in that moment of, oh shit, what have I unleashed? What have I, like, decided to team up with? What am I a part of now? That would be very interesting.
I mean, Londo has made decisions after that point that were, pretty terrible anyway. Like, he had moments where he could have stopped something and didn't.
Well, yeah, but obviously we've talked about how he might feel trapped at that point, or how he might feel scared of what will happen if he doesn't just go along with things at a certain juncture. And that's something that we're actually reminded of earlier on in this episode. There's a great scene, because Vir's back, of course, as we mentioned, and there's a scene where he's negotiating with the Drazi, and basically demanding more of their planets, or a bigger radius and
some sort of buffer zone.
Yeah, and there's a moment after he leaves, and Delenn was there to mediate, and sort of says, "Oh, one side's stupid, the other's scared," and Vir says, "The more worrying part is like which one is which," and I think that was a very pointed comment, because I think Vir recognizes a lot of Londo's faults for what they are. And we've talked about him being the conscience before and all the rest of it, but I thought that was a really interesting thing to remind us of in that way before we get this sequence of here's Jakar witnessing all of these key moments and key memories. So all of this is super interesting in and of itself, and Jakar even getting this information and knowing more specifically what Londo's part in most of this is, which is arguably what makes the next part more powerful, and kind of the message that he gets. Because I was thinking, like, who is this asshole? Who is this random Narn who is now speaking to Jakar inside Londo's head, effectively? Like, why would there be a Narn in here talking to him? What's going on? And it obviously gets answered very quickly and very succinctly.
It's the Narn Jesus.
Well, yeah, but it's Kosh. Like, that's the more important part. Like,
as his father, and then as the Narn Jesus.
Yes. So he sees his father hanging from the tree, which we knew happened. We heard about that. It was very horrific. So the visual was very distinct. Like, you knew exactly what this was immediately, even though it's been a little while since we heard that backstory. And he says, honor my name or something to that effect. It's just, but it's not like this vengeance. It's not like, kill as many Centauri as you can. It's not like a plea of vengeance or anything like that. And then this other Narn shows up, and this is the one where I'm like, who is this guy? But he's saying, like, look, this can't be about revenge. It can't be this cycle of violence. Otherwise, eventually, just both sides will be dead, and it won't matter who started it. Because at one point, Jakar says, but they did this. They're the ones who fired first, effectively. And whoever this guy is like, no, like, eventually, everyone will die, and it won't matter who started this. And we have to work together. And it sounded like he wasn't just talking about Narn. It sounded like he was talking about basically everyone who's allying to fight the shadows, from what I was getting from that statement. And we're going to have to, like, some people are going to have to survive, because if they're not, then everyone will perish. Everyone will die. Yeah.
It was sort of reminding me of, like, the Centauri emperor who came to Jakar before, and was he the emperor who was asking for a peace treaty basically before?
Yeah, I was the emperor.
Before he was killed, and yeah, and then the thing happened with the planets. But I think it was sort of reminding me of that, like, remember how you felt when the possibility of a peaceful, like, resolution, just because somebody was willing to be humble and admit what had happened, and, like, just being the bigger man, I want to say.
I mean, yeah, if you want to boil it down to a sentiment, yeah, that kind of sums it up.
Right, and, like, just trying to put aside,
I think that's what makes...
Just step out of the situation and just, like, acknowledge what is happening for real, and just to try to go forward.
But I think that's what makes this more powerful, is that obviously we had that great hope when Jakar was willing to accept that and seemed to be, like, because he even goes to Londo in that episode and kind of tries to make peace with him, which was heartbreaking at the time, because we already knew Londo had made all of his decisions that were going to ruin it. But the fact that Jakar was willing to do that then, but then he's now been open to it again this time, but this time it's a very different scenario, because now this time it's not the same context. Now it's the context of Londo, the Shadows, and the Centauri have all done all these horrible things again. It's all very fresh. It's all very recent. He has every reason in the universe to be angry, to be vengeful, to want to settle the score because of what they've just done. So the idea that he is possibly willing to forgive, I mean, maybe even not forgive, but at least accept...
Well, it's sacrifice, right? That's what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, but, like, but the idea that he might be willing to stop this cycle at all in this situation, when he has, like, because if you go back to that episode where he was accepting of the idea of peace and, like, putting things behind him, when that was broken, and when he found out what had happened and the way he broke down afterwards, you couldn't imagine him ever going back to that state of mind. But the idea of him being able to accept this now, even after all this, is even more powerful because of everything else that he's had to endure. The fact that he's now having to make this choice when he is this victimized, when his people are this victimized, is even more, like, special and even more of a powerful statement. And if he actually goes through with it, and it kind of feels like he's inching towards it, we're kind of hoping that he's going to make all the right choices. And of course, then it reveals that this Narn, when he turns around, because Jakar says, where have you been? He's like, I've always been here. And he turns around, and we see the same Narn angel that we saw back when Kosh revealed himself the first time. And of course, we immediately recognize this and say, oh, this is Kosh talking to him. This is all Kosh, who we know has telepathic abilities. We've seen multiple hints of that before. And in case you didn't get that, it does make it very clear afterwards when he wakes up and he just starts weeping, which I thought was also quite powerful. The camera, goes over and Kosh is in the corner. And the idea that Kosh is now intervening and saying, no, I have to reach out to Jakar. I have to sort of recruit him. I have to set him on the right path. Whether that means that he's going to actually become part of the group who's working together, whether that means Kosh has got other plans for him because he needs him to be something else in his own way, whatever it may be. But all of this I thought was very powerful.
Plus, we do know that Kosh is a telepath, but he's so strong that he's even able to break through this powerful drug that's causing people to go crazy, to like just calm him down and basically to remove the effects of what's happening.
Yeah, it feels like the drug's completely, I don't know, made redundant.
It's like nothing, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's just completely gone once Kosh has done his thing, which doesn't surprise me, really. Like,
it's just another like show of power for us, the audience.
Given that he is, one of the first ones and all that, presumably they are just better at this stuff. So, but no, I thought this was all great stuff. It was all exciting stuff. It was, it was exciting having Jakar finding out all this stuff from Londo, but then you throw this extra element on it where Kosh is reaching out to him, and he's reaching out to him in a way that speaks to Jakar because he's using his own, the legends that they have of Jakwan and all that. Which is further emphasized in a couple of scenes time when Garibaldi tries to give him his book back and he's like, no, it's okay, I'm closer to the source. Like, this idea that, and it's not manipulation, it's more just that this is speaking in a language that Jakar understands and sort of finds relation to.
And he's in peace. Like, he's at peace with himself. Like, he's calm, he's honest, like he admits his guilt. And he's given, I think, a pretty fair sentence.
I'll be honest. I was expecting a harsher sentence for assaulting a Centauri.
An ambassador. Yeah, me too. But it is still a human that is the judge and not a Centauri.
Well,
judge.
No, I was thinking specifically Centauri, but just because of like we know what the penalty for a Centauri being killed by an Arn is. So the idea that he beat up a fairly important Centauri at that, I thought, oh, they're going to like try and give him like the death penalty because just of what their attitude is. But
they might still try. I don't know, but Londo is indisposed at the time of the trial.
Do you know what I wonder? I wonder if Londo is aware of exactly what Jakar saw. I mean, we know Londo's aware of the first part with the you're the joke who's getting this job because no one else wants it, because they talk about it a little bit. But I wonder if Londo is completely aware of all the things Jakar saw, and I wonder if guilt is the reason why he's not just gunning for him. Is that possible?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. The thought had occurred to me.
Yeah, maybe. That and maybe he's just embarrassed about it so much. Yeah, I guess guilt kind of falls into the embarrassing category.
So yeah, no, I mean the end of the episode is Jakar sitting in his cell, but he's at peace, and we hear a little bit of the previous conversation where he says, for some will have to be sacrificed for all, otherwise everyone will fail, everyone will perish.
They may not be talking about like a sacrifice of life, because they repeat that line at the end of the show, and I don't like it. I don't like it coming from Jakar.
As long as it's not until the end of the show. If he sacrifices himself to save the universe, I think that'll be a heartbreaking.
I hope it's a sacrifice of like ego.
Yeah, I mean it might be. No, yeah, it may just be more of a conceptual thing. It's a sacrifice of your vengeance. It's a sacrifice of that. And would you stop drinking out of that stupid bottle?
It's a treat. I got it yesterday at Disneyland. It's not stupid. It's a thermal detonator.
It's a stupid bottle.
I had some pizza, so I thought I'd have a soda with it. It's going to probably keep me up until like 6 a.m. because I don't drink caffeine anymore.
It's just like every single time you take a drink, it looks like it's almost empty because you have to tilt it back so much to get anything out of it.
Yeah, there's still a little bit in there.
Yeah, but it's just it's annoying because every time I think you're finished, and
it's empty now. I don't know why this bothers you so much.
It does. It's annoying me.
Isn't it cute though? It's so cute.
I'm not impressed. All right.
Well, I'm going to refill it with water for next time.
That's just spite. Be like Jakar. Let go of the vengeance and the.
Yeah, be like Jakar and like chill out, man.
So that lot of wonderful stuff, and what I would consider the main plot of this, which is the Jakar Londo mind invasion and Kosh kind of like, that to me is the main event of the episode. I mean everything else, to go back to Bester and Garibaldi, you know, they interrogate someone. Bester like just fakes because the guy doesn't know he's been injected to not have his telepath powers, so he like just pretends that he knows that he's lying, and then the guy just ends up spilling everything because he gets scared. Yeah,
you know, I mean, like, it was probably an easy bluff.
I think what I was surprised by is that, you know, I was expecting this to be more the main plot, but when it gets to like after that scene, it's basically just them like having a bit of a stakeout, and then they sort of like get into like a quick gunfight, and that's it. Like, oh, there you go, done.
Pretty much. Again, I think I think they're just trying to set up that Bester is trying to like cozy up to Babylon 5, being like, look, you don't have to like distrust me every time I'm here. Sometimes I am here to help. Even though, like, we as the audience, because of the last scene, know otherwise, but, and, we haven't brought up what happens to Talia yet, but, like, after that, like, I don't understand why Garibaldi would ever trust him.
Yeah, let's talk about Talia. So Talia is brought up, partly because
we have an update.
Partly, well, even before that though, they're worried. Talia is one of the things because of what happened with her last. Because remember, they tricked Bester with all the telepath abilities of Talia and the others, and they're worried about him knowing that, which he might know about now, because he hints that he knows things. But when he brings up Talia, because they basically say, hey, after what you did to Talia, because obviously she was the sleeper agent and her personality got completely erased, and Bester claims that he, you know, no, that was like an archaic like experiment. We you know, as soon as we found out about it, we shut it down, and it's not a thing anymore. But we did find out some interesting things when we debriefed her and dissect. And he says something
after
else.
The autopsy.
But he catches himself saying dissection. And Garibaldi, it looks like he's ready to fly for him. It's pretty good. Although Ivanova suspects that he's just trying to rail Garibaldi up, because if you're high in emotions, if you're got an intense emotion, is easier for a telepath to like get into your head. So
yeah.
So maybe he was just faking. But given that I don't think we see her ever again, she probably has just been dissected.
Yeah, and I think Alita had a line in an earlier episode that I thought was funny at the time, but probably is true. And that, you know, even in death, I wouldn't give him my secrets. So maybe they did dissect her and were able to find some secrets in there.
Joe, I wonder if part of the reason why they dissected her is because she was showing. Because remember, we saw that she had she was starting to get telekinesis as well. So I wonder if they like realized this and went digging. That was one of the reasons why they maybe wanted to cut her open and start looking at her brain and being like, "Ooh, let's poke around and see what happens."
I mean, after the sleeper agent thing goes, like, maybe she would want to share that information. You would think they would want to just keep her around as a weapon.
maybe the new personality didn't know how to use it. That's entirely possible. I have no idea. But
sweep it under the rug. It's over anyway.
Yeah. It might come back up. Someone else might have telekinetic abilities. We'll see. It's possible. I mean, there's a couple of scenes early on with just random people who have taken dust just to sort of like show us what it does. There's not much to say there, really. Couple of loud guest stars screaming and yelling and getting into like a weird fight.
I love the reveal of the super 90s thug drug dealer gang on board the station. Just every now and then the show just reminds you it's the 90s. It's so hard.
It's always with the guest stars. It's never with the...
Yeah, it's just the hair...
And when I say
big outfits,
and when I say guest stars, I don't even mean like the proper guest stars who are there to like star in an episode. Not Walter
Koenig.
Yeah, but like the ones who are just there for like, you know, thug number 2, like those sort of like minor guest stars. Right. Yes. So you know, but yeah. So good episodes. I'm trying to run through a few other things. Vir, like, Londo's happy for him to go back, but he's not accepting any of his reports about Mimbar because it's too naive.
Yeah, there's a good exchange between them where Vir is very excited to show him his reports, like, look what I've done, Daddy, like, be proud of me. and Londo is just like talking down to him, like, you'll know when you're as cynical as I am, which is super sad. Like, Vir is supposed to be his conscious. He's the one that sees the good in people, and all Londo can see are political moves.
I mean,
he only sees strategy and weaknesses, or like he's paranoid. Like, he has paranoia about.
Oh, he's super paranoid for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, this is just a nice little refresher of their dynamic and like what Vir represents to him, what their like relationship tells us about his attitude and who he is and how he thinks. Like, you know, it's just a nice refresher of all that. But there's a nice couple of beats towards the end where he's like hoping Vir will stick around for a couple of days, but he's already like been sent back, and he's like, you know what, that's for the best. You should go and do your thing. But there's a couple of sweet moments, like when after they've like found him, like after Jakar kidnapped him, he's in the med bay, and there's a little moment where Vir's like tapping on the window at him, and Londo looks around and just kind of raises a finger to say hello, and it's kind of sweet. And Vir doesn't want to leave by his side. There's just
And Vir also stands up for Londo when Delenn and Lanier are sorry. When Delenn and Lanier are like are talking about that whole exchange of who's afraid and who is naive or whatever. And so it's nice that he's still there to like protect his personality in a way. Like, I know that there's still good there, like, and I'll show you guys one day. Or he'll show you.
Well, Vir's like us. We still want to believe there's good in Londo. But yeah, that was the episode. That was Dust to Dust. Big Jakar episode. I think more than anything else. But the fact that he even knows a lot about what Londo did over the last couple of seasons is a pretty big deal. So I expect a lot of fallout. Plus, it's always fun to see Bester. So you know.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he knows it was the shadows, but maybe he can figure it out since he knows it's Morden involved. And I mean, he'll probably know by next episode.
But do you think we're going to see him next episode, given that he's locked away for 60 days?
Yeah, I don't know.
To me,
I'm not sure.
To me, that said he's at least skipping an episode, maybe two.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's how it works on the show, which is fine.
Yeah, given that happens with most characters anyway, the fact that they actually gave him a reason to be missing for 60 days, I was like, okay, so he's missing for at least one episode.
Yeah, and he knows Morden's involved, and he knows that. I mean, maybe he doesn't remember him, but Morden did go to Jakar and ask him the same question.
True. He did meet him, and it was a weird interaction. So it might have stuck out in his mind. It might not be something that he just forgot about. But I'm the tantalizing thought of him eventually sharing notes with everyone else, and I think the fact that he gave Garibaldi the book, and then Garibaldi's like sort of try to give him it back, and like there's already a connection.
Like a book a friend loans you, you're like, I'm never gonna read this.
But there's already a connection there. There's already like him trying to share information, and maybe it'll be Garibaldi when he finally actually like learns to read some of it. It'll be like, hey guys, we should probably talk to Jakar. You see, you might know a lot of stuff that's relevant.
I'm surprised you didn't ask him for like an audiobook version. Like, do you have this on Crystal that I can just listen to?
Yes, but the voice of Jeffrey Combs reading the Book of Jaquan.
That's cool, but like he's already been on the show, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Admittedly, it was a Psycho agent, right? So it's maybe a bit of a weird. Why is a Psycho agent doing audiobooks? They not pay him enough? They have a little side gig.
He was definitely unhappy with his job. Maybe he got something new.
Well, possibly. Yeah. All right. Well, fun episode. Good stuff going on. Excited for where all this stuff is leading. So by all means, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And of course, you can get us on Patreon, can they, Tara?
That's right. If you enjoy the reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MouthfuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get bonus episodes for other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 1 week early. And you can be ahead of the game and comment early and tell us what to look forward to without spoilers.
And you're welcome for me setting up your Patreon in a way that's right at the start of it made sense, because sometimes I intentionally don't, just to watch you try and either do something else, although more often you'll just do it anyway, even though it makes no sense.
And then but I do it for comedy, and you point it out as if it's a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It's intentional.
I don't believe you for a second.
Why not? I'm not a good liar. I'm not an actress.
I think you've trained yourself to say it a certain way, and you refuse to move from the script. You're like,
no.
okay.
I veer from the script all the time. I change up the ending. But there is no script. What am I even saying?
Well, people can decide for themselves.
If you want me to have a script, you can write it for me.
This has been your Babylon 5 discussion. Thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching in Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.